Welcome to On the Couch, a regular catch-up where we discuss issues facing media, marketing and advertising and hopefully provide some solutions. Today I'm joined on the couch by Sandra Wiles, who is the Head of Partnerships and Integration at the Media Store. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you.
Look, sponsorship, it's a big issue, and there are lots of people involved in sponsorship, but specifically, how can sponsorship fit into a marketing plan or a marketing strategy?
I think marketers have to think of sponsorships essentially as media channels, because at the end of the day, they are a channel, but they're a channel that probably allows you a much deeper communication platform across the business. If you're doing a sponsorship, you're buying into the IP of whatever that particular passion is, whether it's something in the arts, whether it's a team or a sporting code. But it's really important that that sponsorship is something that's going to be able to, immerse itself across your entire business.
So what are some of the common mistakes that people make when they get into sponsorship?
A couple of key mistakes that brands make. I think the first one is understanding the total investment. And I don't just mean investment to leverage in terms of dollar value, because very rarely do you buy a sponsorship that has all the assets you need and doesn't require additional leverage. It does. And it's very important that you understand the entire cost of the business. But I think what a lot of brands underestimate is the effort and energy required to leverage that. A lot of people didn't realise they would have to invest this much time in relationships and in doing things maybe outside of their normal hours. So they are very big investments from a time, energy, emotion and investment perspective. I think another mistake people make as well is measures of success and in thinking about those potentially after the fact, when it's too late to have the infrastructure in place and have that internal alignment on what does success look like and what are we going to measure.
Sounds like strategy is a really important role. So, on that point, how would you recommend selecting the right sponsorship opportunities?
You need to be very disciplined with your criteria, remove personal bias, all those sorts of things. Think about what is the problem you're trying to solve and who is the target that you're trying to reach, what is their passion. Then lay yourself out some really solid criteria that does the hard questions. Is how easy is this to leverage? Does our brand have an authentic fit in this space, or is it something we've got to work harder to be relevant? Do we have complete buy-in across the business? You've obviously got your value equations in there as well, but I think there's very important, less tangible criteria that you've really got to put the filter through those opportunities.
Now, you touched on it before about leveraging and making sure that the leverage is not just in financial terms, but also in your time and energy and resources. But what are the considerations? Because there's the rule of for every dollar you spend on sponsorship, you should spend $1 or $2 more on leveraging it. Do you have a rule like that for leverage?
I don't think it's an exact science like that, because some sponsorships you take up more for external, for conquesting, and yes, you might want to really understand that you're going to have to double your investment again. But there's other sponsorships you might do more for internal purposes. So therefore, maybe that ratio is much more in effort and energy than perhaps extra investment. But I think the key with starting on leverage is always start with owned. What have you bought with the property, and what are your owned assets going to be able to do, and get that internal ecosystem working really hard before you then add paid. I think when you leverage, you need to think about what your communication's going to be against each of your audiences, because you need to add value, not interrupt their experience.
That's interesting. So what you're saying before, when you talked about it being a channel, it's not just a paid channel, it's
That's
actually
right.
Owned, earned,
very
shared.
Much, absolutely. And I think starting with owned ensures it's a great discipline to ensure that you're working it from the inside out.
Great advice. And you mentioned measuring success. And what is the best way? Is there a particular best practice for measuring success?
There's obviously recognised industry sources for measuring success in terms of valuing the assets that you have bought as part of that sponsorship. So valuing the exposure that you might have got from your signage, from your hospitality, your hard costs. But at the end of the day, they're all hygiene, just like your leverage media metrics, they should all be hygiene. Your true measures of success must ladder back to your objectives. And ideally, if you are shifting brand metrics, ensure that your own internal, recognised brand tracking is set up to accommodate that additional sponsorship coming in, because then you've got a currency that you, as a company, you've already bought into, and you're able to measure success and the impact that that sponsorship has had on your brand metrics a lot more directly.
That's fantastic advice. Thanks for joining us on the couch.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us on the couch. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned for more On the Couch coming very soon.